Okay, buddy. Oh, it's some really light stuff to talk about. I got other stuff in my notes, but I was just thinking that listening to a couple podcasts this week that weren't worthy of talking about on the regular show, really, but were interesting. So, for one, Rogan had Ben Shapiro on last
Really?
week.
Huh.
Yeah, it was pretty good, but I got to tell you, I mean, I've always liked Shapiro. I think he's really, really intelligent, but I was so annoyed by his voice by the end of that. I was happy that it was over with because he talks really fast and it's nasally.
Yes.
I mean, I was surprised. I never had that feeling about him before, but yeah, on that one, and they talked way too much about coronavirus. So I'm so tired of that, but how can you not? Because you know why we can't stop talking about it? Because of the conflicting information all the time. That's why. We're still trying to
sort the news so much now as well, and what's going on.
Obviously, all the policies that you live under, that kind of debate. That should be a debate too.
It should.
I'm trying to think. They got on a couple of interesting things that I can't remember right now. You know why I can't remember? Because that immediately, like, I was working as I was listening to it, and it was a rather short one for a Rogan thing because he had to catch a flight. But then it went right into his interview with Snoop Dogg. That was so funny. It was a whole nother thing because I've never known too much about who Snoop Dogg is. I see him on some commercials from time to time, and he seems to be worshipped something like a deity almost. Yeah. And dude, Rogan was so fanboyed by this. He said repeatedly that he was so nervous about having Snoop on because I just loved him for decades here, like big fan. Total fan. I never heard Rogan like that before.
Really? That's interesting. I'm surprised, actually.
Me too. He got really stoned. And so by the middle of this show, he was talking like a stoned fanboy to him. So it was funny. And then on the other hand, I can say Snoop is really cool. Like, I mean, I really enjoyed the interview, but it was like just candy. I didn't learn anything great from it or something. And usually when I listen to these podcasts, I'm looking to learn stuff, just things that I find interesting. It was all just, I guess his moral to the story is he got famous by simply being himself and having fun. This guy just took smoking pot to a whole new level and was just always authentically, unabashed and unashamedly himself. And that's really his recipe for success. And not to mention that, often when we talk about smoking pot, it's always like, well, it makes you lazy. This dude is always working on something, many things, actually. So it's I think that's a good moral to this story is, you're not going to be successful at everything, but if you do everything that you've ever thought of, something's going to hit. Some things are going to hit, and they're probably going to build off of each other. So I could say I got that out of that as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's something that I was looking at a couple of weeks ago, and it had something, and this will tie into what you're talking about, Snoop Dogg, but the Rolling Stones and their song, it was Brown Sugar. Yeah. We've heard that song a bunch of times, and they came here to Los Angeles. My brother-in-law was here. He's a huge Stones fan. And the news ahead of them coming was they're not going to play that song Brown Sugar anymore.
My God. I've read a little bit about that.
Yeah. And I was like, what? You're not going to play Brown Sugar? That's a
great song.
I love that song, right? And so I was kind of mad about the whole thing. And then I decided what are they talking about? Let me look at the lyrics to Brown Sugar. Now, I'd never looked at the lyrics before. All I know is like kind of the main, jam to it and everything, and that's it. But then when I looked at the lyrics to the song, I could not believe what I've been jamming out
because I haven't.
Hey, let's can we
Go
pull it up?
Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah.
that. Hold on a second.
How interesting. Because
Yeah.
I've only known the gist of it. Yeah, it's about a black girlfriend or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like a beautiful
It's a good tune.
black girlfriend, and she, you know, it's like she's good. Okay, so here, let me just read the first part of it. Gold Coast slave ship bound for cotton fields, sold in a market down in New Orleans. Scared old slaver knows he's doing all right. Hear him whip the women just around midnight.
Whoa. Wow, I never knew those words were in there.
Me neither. Brown sugar, how come you taste so good? Brown sugar, just like a young girl should. Now, drums beating, cold English blood runs hot. Lady of the house wondering where it's going to stop. Houseboy knows he's doing all right. You should have heard him just around midnight. Here's some other ones. Bet your mama was a tent show queen and all her boyfriends were sweet 16. I'm no schoolboy, but I know what I like. You should have heard me just around midnight. And it's just so.
All right. I got the slave stuff in the up front. The very upfront stuff. From there on, it's all sketchy to me.
Yeah, but it's the front up front is talking. It's setting the stage for who this woman is that we're talking about. It's a person that's brought into slavery and used as a that movie Django Unchained. They referred to them as comfort girls. And that's what we're talking about. That's what the song is about. And then you start to look at some of the interviews of Keith Richards and acknowledging that that's what this song is about and everything. So I was very moved by this, like, oh my gosh, you know. And here's my thing is, like, when I like listen to songs, and I'm mostly listening to the musical piece of it, and like the lyrics just kind of go along with it, and then you're just kind of just jamming out to it, and a lot of times you can't even tell what the lyrics are saying.
Mick Jagger, you can't tell what the hell Mick Jagger
right
says.
So on to Snoop, and I always thought that the sound of, he's got a great voice, you know, the way that he can, I mean, I know he's making rhymes, but a lot of times I can't really tell what the heck. Most rap songs, I don't know what the heck they're talking about, to be honest with you. So I looked up that song, Drop It Like It's Hot. And I looked up the lyrics to that one, and he just like, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot, you know. And then I looked at what that was saying, and I'm not even going to read that because it's disgusting.
What's it alluding to? Just vaguely.
Prostitution, and pimping out women, and just some really gross things that are associated with that, and killing people. And,
you know, he said in the interview that I wouldn't know any of his songs, and I'm so out of touch, admittedly. He said in his interview that he, like, and they were talking about the East Coast versus West Coast wars and stuff like that, which he says is long gone, over with. They're all brothers now. And but he said that he used to write about death and killing a lot, and he brought up a couple of examples. He said he felt that he came to the realization that he was manifesting that. And so he stopped doing that. And so he started writing about living. And he's like, yeah, I'm manifesting what I'm writing about. So he changed. Apparently he's changed a lot over the decades. And he really seems very grateful, and really genuinely seems like a very nice guy. Oh, and they also talked about his relationship with Martha Stewart. And I've never seen any of this. I've known of it vaguely. And I always thought, well, oh my God, there's a force-fed marketing machine right there. But he said it's completely genuine. I forget how they met, but he said that their friendship is 100% genuine. There's nothing forced there. And I got to take him at his word. He does seem like a really nice guy. Like, I'd like to hang
he
out.
does. When he's very, he's a smooth guy, and he seems like he's cool and everything.
He is
like
cool.
that. But you're seeing him in these commercials and everything like that, very popular. And just back to what we were talking about on the last show, there's such a double standard because of this whole thing. You had the old Me Too movement and everything, and you read the lyrics of the things that he's been saying in his rap songs, and it's really degrading towards women. And it makes you wonder, how did this guy get so popular doing this? And it's really the whole a big portion of the rap industry has capitalized on that whole thing. And you wonder, like, how does that work?
Sex and violence, man. So's Hollywood.
Well, it's funny that you're bringing that up too, because these people stand up for this, and then you watch the movies and you're like, but you just said that this was wrong, like the whole gun control thing. And then every movie, almost everyone's got a gun. Everyone's shooting people. It's really, really
hypocritical.
It's the epitome of hypocrisy.
Isn't everything today, though?
It seems like it. That's for sure. But
I went through everything in my notes. It's got to be like the first time I've ever done that.
Wow, that's interesting. Hey, I got something here. This is something that kind of blew me away from Newsweek. The United Nations is giving the names of Uyghur dissidents to China. The United Nations the United Nations has this thing going on. The very institute created to reaffirm, this is from the article, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights is assisting China in its violent efforts to wipe out Uyghurs by helping the CCP cover its tracks. These were the findings of a recent report in Le Monde about the, I guess that's a publication, about the efforts of UN human rights officer turned whistleblower Emma Riley. Riley claims that prior to every HR Human Rights Council session in recent years, China has requested the names of Uyghur and other Chinese dissidents who were scheduled to speak. And despite this being explicitly forbidden by the UN's own rules, the UN, according to Riley, has made it a practice to share this information with Chinese authority who use it to harass the dissidents' families who are still based in China. That's mind-blowing to me.
It is mind-blowing. There's no end to China and the problem with them. But, we exchanged a couple of emails this week, and it's depressing, but how infiltrated they are in their, how far along they are on their world domination goal is very disturbing.
It really is. And when you take a look at the IP theft that's been an ongoing thing for China, the things that we're seeing that have been created by China to really blow their war machine up into this massive threat to the United States is it's that part is mind-blowing to me. We saw the hypersonic missile that they launched recently, and several
people. Is that
people.
The same one that blew up a satellite, and then the debris from that made them? They had to tell the people in the International Space Station to take cover because they're worried
I'm
about
not familiar with that.
Actually. Oh, really? Oh,
No.
Yeah, that was this week. And I don't know if that was a hypersonic missile. I think they're two separate events.
I think they are too. Yeah. The hypersonic missile is a pretty interesting technology because it can go 5 times the speed of sound. And this is a low level. It doesn't get up to high levels. It doesn't go into space or anything like that. So it can evade radar. And so the real threat of the hypersonic missile is that these can take out our aircraft carrier on the seas without the aircraft carriers even knowing that it's coming. Right. Or when they do know it's coming, it's too late and there's nothing that they can do about it. God. This is the threat is our over the horizon capabilities, as we've heard during the Afghanistan thing, the whole over the horizon thing. Well, the big power of over the horizon powers is that our Navy, actually, and being able to instantly take out all of the aircraft carrier on the sea gives the Chinese military, the People's Liberation Army / Navy, a complete and dominant advantage over the United States.
Oh yeah.
Several people in our State Department, in our Pentagon, actually resigned once that happened, and many people realize that this technology has a lot to do with the theft of our own IP here in the United States. So the Chinese government is growing stronger and stronger as we speak. And we just had a summit between Xi Jinping and Biden. We didn't hear a lot about that, about what happened there, but it seems to be a big, like, we've really changed our whole our leverage with China, as I'm trying to say this, is getting weaker and weaker as we speak.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very disconcerting. Do you see this headline? Do you see my screen share?
I actually moved away from the screen. Hang on just a second, because I was looking up something. What do we got here? House pass.
Yeah. Dems pass Biden's $1.75 trillion bill. Here's the whole headline. House passes Biden's $1.75 trillion social and climate spending package, while Biden has colonoscopy. Well, there's a headline for you. One Democrat votes no, Republicans walk off in protest, and White House celebrates with "Let's Go BB Brandon" tweet. What does that mean, BB Brandon tweet?
I don't know what the White House celebrates with "Let's Go Brandon" tweet. I mean, BB. That doesn't weird.
Dude,
this sounds like a
seventh grader wrote this.
Yeah.
The Daily Mail throws this stuff out so fast that they're just typing it on their phones, I think, as quick as possible. It's awful. Build back better. That's what that means. BB. But boy, did I have to really dig for that. Okay, vote was 220 to 213. And dude, it's all BS. By 1.75 trillion. And, it's doing nothing for us, but it's going to make inflation worse. Biden wasn't immediately ready to celebrate, as he is at Walter Reed for his annual physical as president and due to undergo a colonoscopy. Boy, does that sound like a smokescreen?
Sure does.
Yeah. This is disgusting.
Well, it's just weird that those two things are in the same article. I mean,
in the same headline.
What? Okay.
They try to cram so much into their headlines. It's ridiculous. Okay. Separate article. Biden undergoes anesthesia for a colonoscopy and hands power to Kamala. Oh my God. President gives VP the reins during first physical at Walter Reed after reports of a bitter rift between them. Again, it's kind of like, let's jam a bunch of different conflicting ideas into one headline.
I'm still just, I knew this was going to pass the House. When Nancy Pelosi calls a vote for these types of things, she knows that she has the votes to pass it.
Yes.
This goes, as I said in the last show, this will go to the Senate next to be approved. And we've got Christian Sinema and Joe Manchin have been really pushing back on this whole thing. So we'll see if they can keep on with this, or will they capitulate in some way? And I'm not holding my breath on them holding the line on this whole thing. But I mean, Joe Manchin has a lot to lose if he goes along with this vote as far as West Virginia is concerned, because with the whole climate change piece that's inside of this will destroy the economy of West Virginia. So I don't know how they're going to plan on making this happen, but we're going to see. You're right, though. This is, as we read in the last episode, or in the first episode, the sheer amount of money that this is going to cost is astronomical. The whole thing, there were also reports this week about the how this is going to cost zero, and the only people that are going to pay for this are corporations, because this raises the tax rate for corporations, and also people making $400,000 a year. It's just not true. We're seeing that experts are saying that this is actually going to hurt people that are making less than $100,000 a year in the taxes. And let's not fool ourselves that inflation is like a tax. I mean, we're all going to have to pay for this in one way or another. And this is going to drive inflation up, because they're going to have to print the money to cover this thing. It's not going to all be covered, as we saw in the CBO report and the Wharton report as well. We're going to have to print money. It's not going to cover this. And that devalues the dollar, which we're already seeing at the stores. Hey, over the weekend, Barry, I love steak.
I know
my mouth just watered. I had to have a steak this weekend from my favorite restaurant. It's called Joey. And it's not cheap over there, for Anne Marie and I to have one of these meals. It costs about $100. And but I had to have this $125. So this is it. You want a family of four, you're looking at not really being able to do this kind of thing.
That's for sure. I was at the grocery store last week and I was looking at the steaks. Dude, I was seeing steaks above $40.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, everything has gone up exponentially, especially beef. When you start to take a look at this whole attack on the beef industry as well, there are a lot of nations that they can't afford to have anything like that in there, and they're mostly socialist areas. But it seems like the direction we're going, we're not going to be able to have these types of luxuries. We call them luxuries. They're not real. I mean, anybody. We've had steak growing luxury. Up.
They're That's a luxury thing, because you can eat something else to survive.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. But we're looking at all meats going out the window here. So what are we going to have?
Everything.
Porridge?
No, everything's gone up. We are definitely paying the price for all the inflation. I don't know. This is unrelated to everything, but I was thinking about that Ben Shapiro interview, and one of the interesting parts of it that I would really have to re-listen to, and with him, it's best if you put him on like half speed. But he was talking about, he's Jewish and practicing Jew, and he was talking about the whole. And Rogan was very curious about the whole Jewish thing, and now in politics, it's an issue whether you're pro-Israel or you're an anti-Semite and all of that. And the truth of the matter is, nobody knows what they're talking about. And when he explained the history of the anti-Semitism or pro-Israeli thing to Rogan, it was really it was very complicated. It was really, and he admits it's very complicated. But boy, when he was talking about the squad and AOC going on their anti-Semitic rants, he's like, God, she has no idea what she's talking about. Not even in the slightest.
Mm-hmm. How could she? I mean, she seems to be blind to begin with. She's very young, very inexperienced. This is a complex subject that she seems to pretend that she's an expert on everything. But really, when you listen to her, she doesn't seem to know much about anything, to be honest with you.
Oh my God!
So taking on a subject like that, she can't possibly know what she's talking about.
Why she won't debate anybody.
That's exactly the thing, is that, and we give these people a pass. Why do we do that? It's the whole aspect of reasoning has gone out the window. It's just sound bites, and then you get the media behind you to corroborate your story somehow with like MSNBC with these hate things that they put out there. It's a mess. It can downright bring you down.
It can, but on the other side of that, I mean, there's so many things we always touch on it, but on the other side of that, MSNBC's ratings are in the toilet. And that's a result of, they don't even realize what they're doing to themselves. They keep up with the identity politics till it's gotten so ridiculous that even the dumbest of the dumb are catching on to this stuff. And here's the big thing about mainstream media is being on your basic cable, their audience is dying off. I hate to say it, but their audience is really old. And they're dying off.
As I take a look at MSNBC and NBC, owned by the same parent company, which is Comcast, which is absolutely humongous. They've got very deep pockets. So first off, I wonder, what's the motivation for Comcast to put this kind of stuff out there? But secondly, the scary part is, even though the ratings have gone down, that doesn't mean that they're going to go off the air. This is a platform that Comcast has provided for this type of, I call it hate speech. And, so it's not going to go away like I would hope that it would based on the ratings.
But it kind of is.
There's a certain segment of people that are always going to be watching that channel no matter what. And that's that. I just wish that, I just go back to the whole Martin Luther King thing. I thought that we'd gotten past this type of hatred that's out there. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. If you're preaching hate, you're preaching hate. We shouldn't have this on our channels whatsoever. And maybe it is. I want to believe what you're saying, Barry. It just makes me angry that it's just still out there and it's being perpetuated by deep pockets.
It is. And that kind of fear and hate and all that, it's addictive. I mean, we saw that with the whole Trump derangement syndrome thing. It's addictive. Boy,
it is. It seems like it almost seems like dysfunction.
Well, it certainly is. The TDS Fed created a big void. Trump gets out of power. It's probably the best thing to happen to us so that we can get on the other side of this stuff. It's not the best thing. I mean, because the hatred was so strong that anything that Trump stood for had to be then put in reverse. Well, he did a few things really good and right, was going in the right direction, but just because he's like the border security, some of our public relations, but if he's identified with it, well, then we got to go backwards. We do the opposite, no matter what. And now look where we're at with our economy and everything.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Dude, the worst of it is probably the fact that he threw out the whole Wuhan lab thing. So we let China off the hook by letting months go by before we're allowed to discuss that.
Yeah, you're right about that. And it's too late. I mean, we're not going to be able to find out. We're not going to be able to go into China and do any kind of investigations. I don't think we were ever going to be allowed to do that, to be honest with you. True. China's not going to let you see behind the veil.
Like the stuff with that tennis star disappearing, like the reckless destroying of that satellite in space, which caused debris to go flying around, which caused a great deal of fear for the occupants of the International Space Station. They just don't have accountability. And it's kind of like they're always trying to show us that, like daring us and just laughing at us. Kind of seems like that to me.
It seems like that to me too. I think that's a reality, actually. And it's astounding to see what's going on out there. And it makes me wonder. There's so many people that look at China and say, "Oh, they're the example. We should be more like them." And you start to wonder, well, what are you talking about here? These people are. I've had some conversations, and I'm like, I'm astounded at what some people think is happening there. Like, for instance, their infrastructure and how great their infrastructure is, and we should be more like this. And our whole Build Back Better infrastructure program is supposedly based on this whole thing that China's doing. We've got to be as good as them with the train systems and everything. But when you look at how they built those systems, it's almost entirely built on theft and a Ponzi scheme. And you've got these slave laborers that are out there, and they've got them in concentration camps. Really, that's the kind of country that we want to be. Barry, we have this committee called the Commission on, the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, the USCC, which is a bipartisan commission that just came out with a report 2 days after the summit that we just had. And they're saying some pretty straight up truths about what they're seeing as far as the threat of the Chinese Communist Party is to the United States. And talking about this announcement of their goal to provide the world with a new model of human advancement. That sounds scary to me. Mm-hmm. They put together this 551-page bipartisan report that was just released, and it's really, I think, something that we're going to hear more about, hopefully, in our government to take a look at what this actual threat is. But something that really caught my eye was this last line of this of this article that I read, is that it said the United States. Let's see, the Chinese regime's highest ranking diplomat, I'll butcher this name, but I think it's Yang Jiechi, delivered a list of demands to the Biden administration that outlined what the United States would need to do to have a constructive relationship with China. And it said the United States must abandon all competition against China, cease all efforts to curb the CCP influence operations within the United States. What? And remain silent on the CCP's destabilizing behavior towards Taiwan and human rights violations in Hong Kong, Tibet, and Xinjiang. The list, according to the report, is indicative of the CCP's broader hopes for its relationships with the United States. This is the line from the report. Yang's framing suggests China no longer seeks to cooperate or find common ground, but rather is now dictating that the United States must submit to all of China's preferences.
Ooh, that's brutal, man.
It is brutal. And then when you look at this summit, the reports, almost all of them, it doesn't matter what medium you look at, it says it yielded little to no results. And it's like, well, what if our government knows all of these things, we should be a lot more focused on these kinds of summits. And what do you mean there's no results? What happened? This is a complete
our government is inept. They're focused. They know what their goals are and what direction they're going in. Our government is so busy trying to get money from lobbyists and taxpayers that's where the focus is.
Yeah, I see this. And inside of this report, it's talking about they're not trying to live side by side with us, they're trying to replace us.
Oh yeah, and unapologetically,
it's really crazy how they attack when we try to attack or bring up their human rights violations. Boy, they put it right back on us, and they sound a lot like MSNBC and the talking points MSNBC uses against our country. Well, look at you. You're the haters. Look at what you guys all stand for. And then they use the same talking points as if they're the ones that are writing the talking points for MSNBC, which they may be.
They may be. It sounds a lot like it.
I think more people should know about this. I'm glad we get to talk about it.
Well, yeah. And if people would share our show, we could reach a lot more people. Yeah, we really do need to know about it. But I hate to be so gloomy as well, but it's serious stuff.
It is serious.
Here's a interesting headline. Walmart launches drones delivery service that will drop thousands of products to customers within a 50-mile radius of its Northwest Arkansas store. So they just did a big right there, Fred, right to Amazon. They beat Amazon to the punch with that.
What do you think about all of that?
Inevitable, for sure. Yeah. Inevitable. It's just that's kind of like, wow, it's there. 50-mile radius of Arkansas. Oh, I mean, drones are pretty wild, man. Like I've seen a lot of videos of these transport, like big drones that are kind of trying to be the new like flying cars, so to speak.
Yeah.
All I see, man, is I see all of these propellers. Like, you know, one vehicle will have like 20 propellers on there that just look like a great big mixing bowl. Like, I just picture all these birds getting sucked in there and blood and guts coming out the other side.
I could see that too. You know, it's funny that you're saying that. It's making me think about those wind turbines that you see all over the place, and how I've seen these videos of these birds getting just whacked by those things.
Sure. We don't
big care. Like hawks and stuff like that, and just it's brutal.
Yeah.
And then when I think about these drones, first of all, I think it would be so crazy to have a product come out of the sky and just like and then like this weird thing, like drop it off and then fly away. That's weird to begin with, but when you think about the implications of a tyrannical government controlling society with the likes of the technology of drones, and then when you look at the actual military technology of, I mean, these things can fire weapons and
oh yeah,
they're deadly accurate,
and we've taken out a lot of civilians with them and then try to cover that up.
Yeah, we really have. Obama was really the first president to push that button, and we've seen that happen, and the American citizens actually being killed in other countries by this. It's actually astounding to think that you know, a lot of people are only looking at this as, oh cool, I get my products delivered faster. This is something that could be used. Everything that's good could be used for bad too.
That's true.
We have to take a look at these kinds of things.
Yeah, Lisa and I are big on keeping the windows open and stuff. We like to let the sunlight in and all that. But dude, I picture like just seeing a little tiny drone going by, taking video of her, you know, in her office or something like that. And oh yeah. You never know.
The surveillance technology that's out
there
right now is really crazy. I'm hearing a lot now about these, and I can't remember the name of the term, but there's these cameras that are all over the city that actually are tracking our license plate numbers and then collecting that metadata in a big like data bank. Wow. What are they using that for?
You know, it's like
pictures
Google
in these cars and everything. Well, they say it's one of those things where they could, you know, if somebody abducts a child or something, they could track that. Okay, that's a good thing, right?
Good.
Yeah, right. But they're storing up just trillions of data points of what you and I are doing and where we're going. Yeah, they're selling it.
Add this to other data so that they know your tendencies, they know your personality, they know your buying habits, and
and you brought up AI. You know, you add AI to that, and then they can easily come up with everything that you just said, and make sense of that and use it to attract you as a buyer or other things they
blackmail
can do with it
you
as well. Yeah, exactly. So these are things. You remember that movie Cable Guy?
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw it.
Stupid movie. I'm not recommending it, but at one point at the end of the movie, this whole movie has everything to do with like this whole wired society that we have, and everybody's just glued to it. It's sort of one of those prophetic kind of movies in a way, but it's Jim Carrey and he's ridiculous in the movie. But at the end of the movie, he falls down from this tower onto the big satellite, the upload thing, and it makes everybody's TV go off, and everybody is like, they kind of fall out of their spell, you know, and they're like, huh. And one guy like turns over and he's got like the Bible on his nightstand, and he opens it up and he kind of gets this pleasant smile on his face. I kind of wish we could go back to a time where we just, you know, we read books, we talked to each other and everything.
Not going to happen.
I had my kids over last night, and we had dinner together. It was really fun. We always have such a good time when we get together. And one of the things that we've been doing at the end of the night is playing these group video games together, which is really fun. And we've been having a great time. But I was talking to Anne-Marie and the kids about something, and I wasn't actually looking at them. And then when I finished saying what I was saying, I got no response. And I looked over and all three of them were looking at their phones. I'm like,
yeah, it is.
It's kind of funny how that whole thing happens. I wanted to bring up a movie that I just watched recently, which was I was flipping through the channels, and Schindler's List came on, and I hadn't seen that since it came out I think it came out in the 90s. Yeah, nice. You came up with that awful quick. I like that. Man, what a stunning movie that is. It was really, I thought it was a really well done movie.
It's all black and white, isn't it?
Yeah, it is all black
so
and white.
long ago that I saw that.
It's boy,
it's a long too.
Stunning. It's really long. The stunning violence that happens in that movie, and you know, this was really. It was. I mean, it's a true story. When you look at that, I can't remember the name of the concentration camp guy, the Nazi guy that Schindler was pretending to work with, but that was a real guy, man. I mean, and he was just responsible for killing so many people. It's like, how could that happen?
But there's studies about how the human condition is so easy for an average everyday person to fall into that. And I forget exactly. Maybe this will spark something for you, but there's a study about people seeming to electrocute their friend, and they're told like reason. Yeah. And
saw that one.
They would say that they're increasing the voltage, but I forget what the motivation was, but it was like surprising that people would be like, okay, sure.
It was. I remember it actually very clearly. It was the whole thing was the test on how far people would go based on what an authority figure told them. So they were brought into a lab setting, and there's a guy with a white coat on and everything, very official looking. And there's another guy behind. They couldn't see the guy behind the controls, but they would ask them memory questions. And every time they got one of the memory questions wrong, they'd have to increasingly up the voltage, until at one point the guy's begging the person, please don't shock me, please. And then no. And then the guy in the white coat goes, no, go ahead. You have to shock them. And then they shock them. Then pretty soon the person doesn't respond anymore, and they're still shocking them. Wow. When they ask the question and they don't respond, they go, no, you have to shock them. And they're still shocking these people. And then they make the whole thing was really based on, look, this is how things like Nazi Germany can happen, and all of these kinds of things.
And Jordan Peterson talks along those lines quite a bit about how it gets back to the divisiveness in our country. But he says you have to, if you really want to get to know who you are, you have to be able to recognize that you're capable of anything, instead of saying, how do people do things like that? Well, think about it. Think it through. Put yourself in. What would it take for me to do an action so horrible? So he says it's very enlightening. And what you have to realize is that we all have both God and the devil in us. and we're capable of anything. And it just depends on what road you go down.
Yeah. When you take a look at Nazi Germany and the fact that Hitler put together the Hitler Youth, so many of these SS guards in the Nazi concentration camps, like the one that was in that movie, they were part of the Nazi Youth. And so they'd been indoctrinated into this from an early age. That's why it's so important that parents are involved in the educational system. And we go back to the whole critical race theory thing, where it's like, hey, you're preaching hate to our kids and hating other races. That is a very dangerous thing. And we've learned that from history. We've got to be involved in these kinds of things. Moms and dads need to be involved. We showed that really great video of those dads that got involved in the schools. We need more of that kind of thing to happen out there. And so I'm glad that there are people out there that are doing that, because really that's what protects us from falling into those types of demises. So God bless us, man. But you're right. I mean, Jordan Peterson's right. It's a biblical aspect as well, is that, that we're not born these, we're all capable of this kind of thing. We all have, we're all capable of sin. We've all fallen short in one way or another. None of us are perfect. Right. And it's pretty funny, a lot of movements today where they go back in people's history and you said this 40 years ago. It's like, okay, all of us have said terrible things before, Yes. Unfortunately, with the surveillance society, all of us can be incriminated pretty easily.
Right.
Anyway, that's that.
Yeah, I got a phone call and I really got to get going, buddy.
All right, well, let's end it right here. We've got Thanksgiving coming up this Thursday,
right?
And we're gonna have to look at what we do. So
I've not given that a thought. Well, I mean, thinking about it right now, we should be good for Friday, right?
We should be, but we should probably not do it so early after our Thanksgiving coma.
Or we could do a Thanksgiving special on Wednesday.
That's probably a better idea. Let's do that.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Same time?
Yep, same time, same place. Let's
Can't
do
wait.
it. All right, me too, Barry.
All right, buddy. Have a great weekend. Fun as always.
Yep.